So the dust has settled. We know everything about the 3080 that is to know. We've seen the benchmarks, and we also seen the trouble that Nvidia got itself into with the launch of the 3080, which was, well, to put it very mildly, less than ideal. So in today's video, let's talk about the 3080, the availability problems, and how Nvidia addresses all of those issues. Hi everyone, I'm Laser. Welcome to my channel where we talk about gaming and hardware, and in today's video we'll talk about the 3080, the performance benchmarks, the availability issues, and Nvidia's statements about all of that. And when it comes to the benchmarks, I just want to put a disclaimer here. They're not my own. I will be using the benchmarks that are available on different websites, different technology blogs, so we can analyze them, check the performance, see who really 3080 is dedicated for. I don't have my own 3080 yet because I wasn't able to grab it when it was on sale before the stocks ran out, so probably like most of you. But let's use what we have available on the internet and see how the 3080 stacks against the promises that Nvidia made. Let's start with the subject that should be most relevant to us, so with the availability. As we already know, there is a very limited amount of 3080s that have been released to the market, and there have been some issues with bots claiming most of them, or maybe not most of them, but a lot of them. So a lot of people were pissed because they weren't able to grab their own 3080, and there has been quite a few people waiting for that day so they can purchase it and put it into their new or current gaming PC. Because let's face it, there was a lot of hype built around 3080. It's a great graphics card, even though it doesn't live up to the promises that Nvidia made about the 2x performance of 2080. It does achieve that, but in just some of the titles and under certain circumstances. But still, the card is very good and it offers dramatic increase in performance, especially compared to the last gen, to 2080 Ti and to 2080 Vanilla. But we'll talk about it in the later part of the video. Let's get back to the availability issues that we currently have. The problem has been so big for Nvidia that they released an official statement about how they're going to address those issues, and let's have a look at what they told us. So Nvidia has released a statement that the number of GPUs that they were able to send to the partners and shops has been very similar to what we have seen in the previous releases, but the demand they faced was unparalleled and they were not really prepared for that much demand, especially at the launch. They also stated that they are working close with other companies to make sure that there is a steady flow of new units to the market to meet the demand. And I think that's reassuring that Nvidia is really trying to deliver as many units as possible in the shortest amount of time. I have asked one of the retailers about the situation and when more GPUs are going to be available, and he stated that October should see a major increase in the number of GPUs being available in stock. So if anyone is really hoping to buy one soon, well, probably you need a bit more patience and wait till October when Nvidia and their partners were able to ship much more units than they have up till now. This also seems to be in line of what Nvidia has been telling us, that they have been ramping up production since August and they have been selling those GPUs to their partners since August, so we should shortly see a major inflow of the graphics card to the market. So if you didn't get yours, nothing's lost. You should just still wait till October when we should see a much bigger increase in the number of GPUs being shipped to the shops, to the retailers and so on. Also in October we're getting a release of the 3070, and I think this will be a very good alternative for the 3080 if it's still not available, especially for people playing in 1080p, but we'll get back to that when we are looking at the benchmarks. I'll tell you exactly why I think that's this way. And I think this is also a good moment to really step back and look at this whole situation as a gamer, because I understand that this is a new technology and a lot of people are, very hyped about it and they want to have the latest and greatest in their PCs, but I don't know, if people already have 1080 Ti or 2070 or 2080 Ti in their gaming rigs, then did all of a sudden their games stop working or did they start stuttering? I don't think that's the case, and I think this is just the hype train that everyone jumped on and just wants the greatest graphics card from Nvidia right here and right now. And honestly, I think we should all relax. I mean, the graphics card sooner or later will be available to all of us. If it means waiting one more month to just get the normal price, because the prices right now, even at retailers, are quite inflated. I've seen prices going up from like the promised $600 or $700 to almost $800-900 at the retailers. So, we are complaining about scalpers, but the retailers are also trying to get as much money into their pockets from the very limited stock of GPUs. So let's just take a step back, relax, enjoy the games we always play, and don't think about the hardware. It won't matter if you will have 20, 50 more FPS in the game if you don't enjoy it. So really don't worry about the hardware. It will come sooner or later. Let's just wait. Let's just play Among Us. You don't need a great graphics card for Among Us, or let's play Fall Guys, which is also a great example where the hardware doesn't matter in order to have fun. And really don't inflate the market. Don't give the scalpers chance to earn some additional money on their immoral behavior, let's call it like that. And well, let's move on to the benchmarks of the 3080 and look how it performs in the current games. And the benchmarks are not a big surprise. We see a very big increase in performance when it comes to the 3080 and the comparison between 3080 and, for example, 2080 Ti or 2080 Vanilla. We see an increase of anywhere between 20% up to even 35% when it comes to games. It all depends on the settings, on the type of game, whether the ray tracing is on or it's off. And also, I want to remind you once more, those are not my benchmarks. I don't have the graphics card just yet. We'll just analyze what's available on the internet, what you can find of technology blogs, and try to come to a conclusion who the 3080 is for and whether you should buy it. TechSpot did a great review of the card, taking a look at the performance in 14 different titles at 1440p and 4K. So let's have a look at them. And if you want to see the full review, which I encourage you to do so, you'll find it in the link in the video description. Let's start with Shadow of the Tomb Raider at 1440p. Here the RTX 3080 performs at 154 frames average, which is 29% faster than the 2080 Ti, which offers a nice and noticeable boost in the performance. It also is 57% faster than the 2080, which managed to achieve 103 FPS. When we jump to 4K, the performance gain is slightly higher, with 3080 being 30% faster than the 2080 Ti and 67% faster than the 2080. 3080 managed to achieve 87 FPS, which is a fantastic result, and suggests that if we lower the game settings a bit, we should be able to play at well above 100 FPS, and with 4K, high refresh rate, monitors becoming more affordable, this means that we could enjoy high quality gameplay at 4K. Moving on to Rainbow Six Siege. On 1440p, we can see a whopping 327 FPS, which is 28% faster than the 2080 Ti and 63% more than the 2080. It's a great result, especially since this is a highly competitive title where every advantage matters. On 4K, the FPS is still well above 100, averaging 174, which is 29% faster than 2080 Ti and 71% more than the 2080. In Metro Exodus at 1440p, the 3080 is able to achieve an average of 153 frames, which means it's just slightly faster than the 2080 Ti, and that's due to the CPU bottlenecks. On 4K, the CPU bottleneck becomes much less of an issue, as most of the heavy lifting is transferred to the GPU, and we see 35% increase in performance compared to 2080 Ti and 70% increase when compared to vanilla 2080. That's quite an impressive result, and it shows that 3080's performance is quite ahead of the performance of the current gen CPUs, and I'm very curious on how this will look with the future releases of the next gen CPUs like the Zen 3 or Intel's 11th gen Tiger Lake CPUs. Finally, the game that causes PCs to melt and have a run for their life, Microsoft Flight Simulator. The problem here is that the game really takes advantage of Intel's high megahertz counts and architecture, so the numbers are a bit underwhelming when we pair the 3080 with AMD CPU. At 1440p, the average FPS is 48, which is just 9% over the 2080 Ti and 30% increase over the 2080. When we swap to Intel CPU, the difference increases to 20% between 3080 and 2080 Ti. But I don't have the graphs for it. At 4K the difference is bigger, at 30%, but still no 60 FPS at highest settings and when flying over busy landscapes, which tells us that the game is really a beast to handle, even with the top performing CPUs and GPUs available on the market right now. I'm really curious how it will look when we see the release of 3090, which has much more RAM to go with, and it should also promise an increase in performance when it comes to 4K. So now that we have seen the benchmarks, let's answer the question, should you get one? Well, and the answer is, as usual, it depends. If you're playing at 2K or more, then 3080 is definitely a worth-free upgrade for you to spend the additional money if you don't have a 2080 Ti yet. And even if you have a 2080 or 2080 Ti, the upgrade that the 3080 offers is significant, so it might be worth considering. And since the monitors for 4K gaming, especially at high refresh rates, are becoming more and more affordable, with, for example, LG releasing a 4K monitor for just under $1,000, you can get pretty decent gaming gear for 4K without spending too much money, or at least spending less than you used to. But on the other hand, if you're not planning to upgrade to 2K or 4K in the nearest future, in the next 3 to 4 years, then I strongly recommend that you wait for the 3070 and see the benchmarks. There is a reason that the tech blogs and YouTubers and everyone else is comparing 3080 and 2080 in titles running at 1440p. Even with 2080 Ti, when it comes to 1080p gaming, we could already see a performance impact when it comes to CPU performance in the games. So getting a faster graphics card without getting a faster CPU makes really no sense. Unless you want to future-proof yourself and buy a graphics card that will serve you for another 5 or 6 years when playing 1080p games. This might be also a good choice to do because, you know, you're spending the money right now and you don't have to upgrade your GPU, in my opinion, for another 4 years. So you can skip like 1, maybe 2 generations of graphics cards and be fine. But if you're planning on playing on 1080p and don't really have the budget for 3080, then you should definitely wait for 3070, because in my opinion that will be the best card for full HD gaming, at least when it comes to performance. Or even wait for the announcement from AMD regarding the RDNA 2. We all know that AMD graphics cards are much cheaper, much more affordable than the Nvidia, and offer much better performance to price ratio. So if you're a bit more on a budget side, or at least you don't have to upgrade right now because you have a fairly decent, fairly new graphics card, then just give yourself some time, wait for the prices to stabilize, and don't buy anything that you know it's built up on hype. So just to sum it up, I think the delay in shipments for some of us might be a good thing, because we are stopped from buying irrationally new gear that we don't need, and we can take the time to just step back and have a look if we really need that additional power to play our games. And I think that buying the 3080, if you're planning to switch to 4K or 2K gaming, is a reason good enough, and sure, go ahead when it's available, then grab it for yourself. But like I said, if you're planning to play in 1080p, don't really want to switch to 4K gaming or 2K gaming in the nearest future, in the next 2 to 4 years, then you should definitely wait for the 3070 and for AMD's release, because they'll probably offer much better value for you as a consumer, as a user, as a gamer, than buying the latest and greatest, the 3080. Alright, that's it from my side. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below. You can find all the links to the most interesting materials that I've used in this video in the description. And I'll talk to you soon.